They said humanity was extinct. They were wrong. Captain Zar had seen many strange things across galaxies, but nothing had prepared him for what Verides truly was. The lush forests, the sentient winds, the skies that pulsed with memory. This was not just a lost human colony. It was a living archive. And the humans here were no longer human. As he stood on the ancient stone platform, the emblems beneath his boots flickered to life. Symbols older than Earth's oldest tongues spiraled around him, each telling a fragment of a buried truth. Ilara, the last known speaker of Verides, stepped forward. Her eyes glowed like stardust, and her voice carried the weight of millennia. "You think you found us by accident," she said, her voice both thunderous and tender, "but you were led here by design." Captain Zar's heart sank. "What do you mean? Who designed it?" "The architects," Ilara whispered. "The original ones. The ones who seeded Earth." He stumbled back. It couldn't be. The architects were myth. Galactic bedtime stories to explain unexplainable ruins, artifacts no one could decipher. But as the glyphs on the stones formed into a holographic sphere, he saw Earth, spinning silently in a cradle of energy. "They didn't abandon you," she continued. "They protected you. Hid you. Even from yourselves." Zar's voice cracked. "But why? Why erase humanity's purpose?" She turned, leading him into the ancient citadel where walls breathed and light curved. "Because you were too powerful." Behind them, the skies rumbled. The Zenthara warships had arrived. The final confrontation was no longer avoidable. They knew Verides was not just another planet. It was the key. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the archive activated. A memory projection enveloped Zar, pulling him into a memory not his own. He stood inside the Council of the Architects. 12 beings of light debated in tones that shook time itself. "If we let the humans evolve fully, they'll surpass us," one warned. "But if we limit them, we kill the very hope we created," another pleaded. A final voice, calm and decisive, spoke. "Then we must hide their truth. Lock their genesis behind layers of evolution and myth. Until the day they return to claim it." Zar gasped as the vision faded. Ilara stood before him again. "You are the returner. You activated the memory key." Above them, the Zenthara began to descend, hundreds of ships blanketing the sky like a second night. The citadel's defenses shimmered, ancient yet fragile. They weren't built for war. But neither was Zar. He was built for truth. Ilara handed him the Genesis core. It pulsed with human DNA, pure, unaltered, ancient. The blueprint of what humanity once was. "Take it," she said. "Let them see. Let the galaxy remember." As Zar stepped outside, flanked by the hybrid humans of Verides, the Zenthara loudspeakers blared. "Surrender the core, or we unleash fire." But Zar didn't flinch. He raised the Genesis core high. A pulse of energy erupted, soft but unstoppable. It wasn't a weapon. It was a beacon. And across the stars, something stirred. Other lost human enclaves awakened. Forgotten colonies hidden in asteroid fields. Derelict starcraft sealed for centuries. Children born with ancient memories. The design had been broken. Humanity was no longer forgotten. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the architects looked down and remembered why they created us. Zar smiled. "We are not your mistake. We are your mirror." The Zenthara fired. But this time, humanity fired back. The first blast from the Zenthara ships ripped through the sky, a beam of searing violet energy aimed directly at the Genesis core. But before it could strike, the beacon pulsed again. A shockwave, invisible to the eye but deafening in the mind, echoed outward from the core. The beam fragmented, midair, into harmless flickers of light. Zar didn't flinch. Around him, the Veridian hybrids began to hum. Not in fear. In resonance. The core had awoken something ancient in them. In all of them. One by one, they stepped forward, eyes glowing. Skin shimmered with memories encoded in their DNA, like constellations dancing across their veins. Each breath they took synced with the pulsing rhythm of the planet, as if Verides itself had become conscious again, because it had. The planet was a failsafe. Ilara stepped beside Zar. "We don't need to fight like them," she said calmly. We remember now. Another Zenthara blast came. But the hybrids raised their hands and caught it. The energy curled in their palms, harmless. Astonishment rippled through the enemy fleet. For a moment, the sky stood still. Then, thousands of lights appeared beyond the clouds. First a ripple, then a roar. Human ships, ancient, forgotten, awakened. They poured in from hyperspace fissures like ghosts returning to their bodies. Vessels cloaked in dust, engines long cold but now reignited by the beacon's call. Captains with no flags. Crews born from broken timelines. Refugees of Earth's lost past. One ship flew forward. The Solstice Ark, the last vessel of the pre-Exodus Earth fleet. Its voice rang out through the galaxy-wide comms. This is Captain Mira Lane of the Arkansas standing by the humans of Verides. More voices joined. Dozens. Hundreds. Forgotten outposts, derelict satellites, abandoned AIs, all awakened by the core's pulse. Zenthara Command was silent. Then they panicked. But it was too late. Zar's voice cut through every channel, carried by the core's signal like a command from destiny itself. You buried us. But we were roots. And now we grow. He slammed the core into the ground. A seismic wave tore through Verides. Not destruction, but reformation. Across the galaxy, dormant architect technology activated. Pyramids on moons. Spires under oceans. Forgotten gates on the dark side of Mars. Each one synced with Verides, creating a network not of control, but of memory. The truth could no longer be hidden. The Zenthara fleet broke formation. Some fled. Others hesitated. And a few surrendered. Zar didn't ask for mercy. He offered understanding. Fear made you forget who we are, he said to the enemy commander, now patching in through trembling hologram. But we forgive you, because we remember who we are. Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. We are not vengeance. We are the answer. Silence fell. Then, from the heart of Verides, a voice unlike any other filled the air. It was not male, not female, not even human. It was the voice of the architects themselves, echoing through the ages. Humanity was our final gift, and it was never forgotten. It was only waiting to wake. All across the galaxy, every species stopped, listened, remembered, and thus, the war never began. Instead, a new era did. The Age of Returners. But for Captain Zar, one final mystery remained. Who placed the memory key inside him? That night, as stars returned to their rightful constellations, and the people of Verides celebrated not victory, but awakening, Zar wandered the ancient ruins alone. He stopped at the last chamber. The one he hadn't dared enter before. Inside, a single stasis pod. He approached slowly. The lights flickered. Inside the pod was him. A younger version. Sleeping. Frozen in time. And beside the pod, an architect. Motionless. Holding a message engraved into crystal. Zar read it aloud. We do not erase. We hide. Until the time is right. And the right one finds himself. He stared at his own reflection, eyes wide. Ilara appeared beside him, quiet. You weren't chosen, she said softly. You were built. Zar closed his eyes. And whispered, then let this be the last time we forget ourselves. The stars outside shifted. The galaxy had remembered. And now, it would never forget again. Beneath the stars of Verides, something fundamental had changed. Not just on the planet, not just within Captain Zar, but within the fabric of the galaxy itself. The core's pulse had not merely activated machines or awakened lost archives. It had rewritten the rules of connection. And now, the architects were watching. In every system where their ruins lay silent for eons, observers blinked to life. Orbital rings reactivated. Pillars of light stretched from long-dead monoliths toward the center of the galaxy, toward Verides. Messages, thought to be untranslatable for ages, began decoding themselves in the minds of those genetically linked to humanity. Zar sat atop the ridge of winds, staring into the horizon where distant mountaintops glowed faintly with crystalline veins of knowledge, natural, ancient, alive. The Genesis core, now embedded into Viridi's surface, had fused with the planet. It was no longer a tool. It was a heart. Ilara joined him, holding a small, glowing orb. She handed it to him. "A child was born this morning," she said. "The first of the new line." Zar cradled the orb gently. Inside it floated the child's DNA signature, an intricate dance of light and code. It was unmistakably human, but more evolved. A synthesis of Earth's original blueprint and Viridi's ancient design. "He won't grow up like we did," Ilara added. "Not blind. Not lost." Zar didn't speak at first. "Then, does he know who he is?" Ilara smiled. "He will. That's the point." Suddenly, a soft chime echoed from his wrist device, an incoming signal. He tapped it. A flickering hologram emerged. The Galactic Assembly, the ruling body of the known star systems. And for the first time in centuries, they looked nervous. A figure stepped forward, a Sonari Prime, tentacled and crystalline. "Captain Zar, you've created an anomaly. Systems are aligning that were not meant to. Architect technologies were sealed for a reason." Zar's voice was calm. "They weren't sealed to protect us from danger. They were sealed to protect the truth from those who feared it." The Sonari Prime paused, then leaned forward. "The truth can destroy order. Then maybe your order was built on lies." Gasps echoed across the assembly. Zar ended the transmission with a swipe. No longer a soldier. No longer a seeker. He had become something else, a mirror the galaxy couldn't look away from. Ilara turned to him. "They won't let this go." Zar nodded. "Then we'll show them what letting go really means." Over the next several weeks, Virides became a beacon, not of war, but of remembering. Species who once enslaved others came to witness the core. Machines older than suns synced with its frequency. Lost civilizations, thought extinct, emerged from hiding. It was as if the very act of remembering was healing the universe. But in the background, not all watched with admiration. In the shadows of the Black Zone, a region of uncharted space, a council gathered. Not Zenthra. Not Assembly. Something older. Something that had never left. Only hidden deeper. The Preservers. 10 beings cloaked in null energy. They spoke without words, their thoughts colliding in cold harmony. "The Returner has activated the Echo," one said. "He threatens the design," another added. "We must intervene," said a third. But a fourth, older, louder, firmer, interjected. "No. We observe. The design adapts." Back on Virides, Captain Zar felt it, like a chill in the gravity, a wrinkle in time. He turned his gaze upward, toward a patch of stars that felt wrong. As if they were watching. And then he heard it. A voice, not Ilara's, not human, not even architect. Just a whisper. "Do you know who made us?" Zar stood, heart pounding. The architects were not the first. He looked at Ilara. "It's not over." She nodded. "It never was." And as Virides rotated slowly under its twin moons, casting silvery light across the glowing forests and crystal lakes, Captain Zar knew. This was only the beginning. Zar didn't sleep that night. He walked the perimeter of the citadel alone, his footsteps silent on the metallic roots that had begun to grow from the embedded Genesis core. The ground beneath Virides was changing, no longer just soil, but living memory. It responded to thought. It held echoes of forgotten voices. And in the distance, something was calling. Not a signal. Not a voice. A pull. It came from beyond the Viridian system, far beyond. Somewhere deep inside the Black Zone. Where no known maps dared reach. Where architect vessels vanished without trace. Where even light bent differently. The Preservers were watching. But they weren't the source of the whisper. The next day, Ilara brought Zar to a secluded chamber, one he had never seen. A door that had not opened in 12,000 years. It responded to his DNA alone. The walls were blank. Empty. Until he stepped inside. Then they lit up. Not with words. Not with symbols. With galaxies. Projected in full scale. Billions of them, spinning slowly, each one a tapestry of architect observations. Threads of color-connected systems. Bursts of light showed timelines, collapses, restorations. And at the very center, an empty circle. No stars. No light. Only a phrase burned into the dark. The first design. Zar reached out. The circle expanded. It revealed an ancient structure, older than any known civilization. A world forged in impossible geometry, surrounded by collapsed realities. The architects had labeled it simply, Origin Null. Zar blinked. His voice barely escaped his throat. What is this place? Ilara spoke quietly. The planet where the architects were born. Zar turned to her, stunned. You knew. She shook her head. No. I remembered. Last night. Dreams. Visions. I think the core is unlocking us all. He stepped closer to the projection. From the void of Origin Null, black lines reached outward like fingers, touching multiple galaxies. Not connections. Chains. Every system the architects ever influenced, Earth included, was tethered to this place. And just as suddenly as it appeared, it pulsed. The lights in the room flickered. The projection trembled. And then a second message appeared, layered over the map. If the returner breaches Null, the cycle breaks. Zar turned to Ilara. What cycle? She swallowed. The cycle of silence. Of forgetting. Of being designed. He stared at the message again. If he reached Origin Null, he'd break it all. Not just the current order, but the very pattern of history itself. Zar sat in silence. The galaxy had remembered humanity, but humanity was just one design. One experiment. There were others. Buried. Abandoned. Silenced. And if he was the returner, if his purpose was to awaken truth, then that truth went deeper than Virides. Deeper than Earth. Deeper than even the architects. A low rumble shook the room. Then another. Far away, something massive had arrived in orbit. Ilara's communicator buzzed. Captain Zar. You need to see this. Now. He ran. Out of the chamber. Up the spiral tower. Into the observatory. The sky was burning blue. Hovering above Virides, blotting out the sun, was a vessel. No known signature, no known origin. Not Zenthra. Not architect. Not assembly. Just a shape. Smooth. Silent. Timeless. The core pulsed once. Then twice. Then exploded in song. Not destructive. Resonant. And Zar heard it. A voice inside his mind. Older than words. Returner. You have remembered enough. He dropped to his knees. Nose bleeding. Vision spinning. The voice continued. You are not the first. His breath caught. You are the last. Zar whispered aloud, trembling. Then what am I supposed to do? And the sky split open. From the great ship above, a single beam descended, touching only him. Not burning. Not pulling. Inviting. And for the first time since he awoke on Virides, Captain Zar was afraid. Not of death, but of knowing everything. Ilara grabbed his arm. You don't have to go. Zar looked at her. I was made to. He stepped into the beam. And vanished. The beam carried Captain Zar not through space, but through memory. Through time. Through layers of forgotten civilizations and erased realities. Not teleportation. Not travel. Something far more terrifying. Extraction. When his eyes opened, he stood on a vast obsidian plain. The sky above wasn't black, it was absence. No stars. No light. No time. Origin null. A place untouched by entropy. A place that had never been, and yet had always waited. Before him rose a monolith. Not a structure. A presence. It shifted form as he looked at it, sometimes a tower, sometimes a face, sometimes a mirror. Always watching. And it spoke. Zar, you have seen the edges. You have touched the truth. Now, finish the cycle. He stepped forward. The monolith pulsed. Why me? Zar asked. His voice felt heavy here. as if even sound feared this place. The monolith responded, not in words, but in waves of memory. He saw his birth, not on Earth, but inside a hidden chamber on a distant architect ship. He saw his DNA, coated with ancient architect strands and something older. A failsafe. A reminder. He saw Ilara, not as a guide, but as another returner who had once failed, and had been reset. He saw Earth's destruction, over and over. Each time, humanity rose too far, and each time was forgotten by design. By the architects, by the preservers, by the origin. And now, he was the last iteration, the final version, the one who remembered everything. Zar collapsed to his knees, tears cutting through his dust-covered face. Then what am I supposed to do? Destroy it? Restart the cycle again? The monolith did not answer in voice. Instead, it opened. Inside, a single chamber, a throne of light, and a choice. Sit and become the new origin. Zar trembled. Or leave, and let the forgetting begin again. He looked around, saw echoes of the others, other returners, failed ones, their memories embedded into the walls. Silent, watching, waiting. Zar stepped forward, not because he wanted power, not because he needed truth, but because, for the first time, he understood the cost of forgetting. He sat. The throne lit up. The monolith cracked. And across the galaxy, every forgotten archive unlocked. Every hidden memory bloomed. Every species that had been silenced, remembered. Back on Virides, Ilara looked to the sky as it shimmered with constellations never seen before. A child was born. He opened his eyes and spoke his first word. Zar. The cycle was broken. The design was no longer forgotten. And humanity, truly awakened, began not a new chapter, but a new universe.